Hello and welcome to Dad Made a Nerd. We are finally back with episode 10, so we're finally in double digits. I'm Jay. Obviously, I'm with my dad. And today we're going to be talking about all things Last of Us Season 2 and Aliens on Earth. Cool. Hey, Dad, it's been a long time. How you been?
Has been long and I've missed it. I've missed our opportunity to connect, talk about some of our favourite things. It's been a busy at times, but that's fine. But look, we're back, which is great. So,
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some good stuff as well. I'm quite excited about today's conversation. And yeah, but how are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, there's been so much going on, not just in our lives, because we're real human beings that have jobs and such and trying to upkeep all of that, but also in media as well. We've not had one of these episodes in ages, so I feel like there's just so much we could talk about, from Last of Us to Our Finished Reacher to there's loads of films out like Ballerina, and I just watched How to Train Your Dragon. Loads and loads of stuff that has been coming out, and but we're back now. We're going to focus on something that I think will really get us back into the groove of this podcast, which is a franchise which I know is my favorite franchise. I know you love this franchise too, and that is Alien.
Yeah. We are going to gloss over the fact just your background has significantly improved since the last time we recorded as
It
well.
has,
So
thank you.
it's worth saying.
Yes,
If
if
people
you're
are
watching,
people are watching the video of this, and if not, it's on YouTube. The Jacob's got an enhanced background, so good
yes,
for you. But
thanks
no,
to all of
Alien.
my
Let's talk.
friends leaving. I've
Let's
got the
talk about
pants now.
Alien. I love Alien as a series. Let's maybe talk about some of our favorite Alien films. But
Yeah.
the release of the trailer for Alien Earth has got me very, very excited. But we're gonna get on and we're gonna talk about the Alien Earth trailer. But there's just something about our love for Alien. I think Aliens, the second film, is the best ever sequel of all time.
Wow.
Undisputed. There are not many other, but I think it's got to be the undisputed best ever sequel film of all
You know
time.
what? I agree. I can't think. Okay, no, Spider-Man 2 I think is possibly better than the first Spider-Man, but I do think if I'm comparing those movies, Aliens takes the cake every time.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the other one.
Oh,
I
true.
think the other one, but I think
And you know
it's up
what?
there
Both
with the best
James
ever
Cameron.
sequels.
Both
They
James
are.
Cameron.
Yeah.
Brilliant director, you know. Obviously made things like Avatar, you know. Man is Jimmy C is very rich.
But the original source material comes from Ridley Scott. He's an executive producer on the new series as well, isn't he? I think, am I right in thinking Alien's probably one of your best films of all time?
So if anyone, because we are in this sphere of watching films and loving media and nerdy shit, that whenever it comes up in conversation, of course, so many people I get asked, and I hate these questions. It's like, oh, what's your favorite film of all time? And it's such a vague question. There's so much content. I absorb about over 70 films, just films that come out every year, that come out that year, let alone stuff I revisit or haven't seen before from past years. But for example, in 2024, I watched over 70 films that came out that year. So I probably need more of a life. Yeah. So when someone asks me what my favorite film is, my go-to answer is Alien, the first Alien film. Because I just think it's a work of art. I think everything about it, a full deep dive into that film. There's so much to learn. It's a brilliant film to study, and it's just one of my favorites. I think it's an amazing film, a real 80s horror sci-fi, even down to how the film itself was marketed before it came out. Obviously, I wasn't alive then, but with just a picture of what you think is a globe. It was a trailer of just darkness and the like edges of a sphere, thinking it was a globe, and as it panned out, it's a singular egg, and just the caption in space, no one can hear you scream, the famous tagline from that franchise. And that was it. And it just created this uproar, an amazing film. I love it. But if you're listening and you're unsure what we're on about, there is a new Alien TV show coming out on Disney Plus because Disney acquired Fox, who own the Alien franchise, and they also merged Hulu, which is like another streaming service, into Disney, which are more like, I'd say, prestige, more adult television. And that is going to include this new Alien Earth drama. So when it comes to the Alien franchise, before we get onto this trailer breakdown, do you have a favorite Alien film? Is it Aliens?
I personally, I think Aliens. I look the original Alien film's great, but I think Aliens is just, for me, like, just such a good film. I mean, there's two like completely different takes of a film. You don't usually get something in a franchise where you get the first film, which is, you know, not many characters, kind of horror film basically set in space, and then the sequel is more of a way more action orientated film. But the so it's interesting you get two sequels that are very different, so it's difficult to compare. But I do love Aliens too. I would say we watched, I think, one of my favorite films from last year, 2024, was Alien Romulus. I particularly enjoyed it because we watched it in a cinema together. I think we were in Liverpool and it had subtitles, but it was and that was a funny experience, wasn't it? But I love that film, was really good as well, because for me, you know, Lost it. If you look at the canon films, so we know Alien versus Predator and stuff like that aren't part of the kind of Aliens canon, but they obviously, since Aliens 2, there's been a drop off. But Alien Romulus, for me, like, really kind of went back to that kind of
revitalize the franchise.
Feel of originally thinking of the franchise. I'm not a massive fan of Prometheus and some of the others. They're okay films, but they started to go off in a weird direction. Romulus brought it right back to that kind of back to that kind of alien kind of thing, without some of the distractions of weird kind of big people and stuff like that. So I really loved Alien Romulus. So for me, if you'd say what are my favorite films in the franchise, Aliens, Alien Romulus, and this TV series looks like it's going to kind of follow that same kind of positive kind of where we are in the franchise.
It's super exciting. So just looking forward, finally we have kind of Disney using Fox to put a lot more effort into this franchise. And Fede Alvarez, who made Alien Romulus that came out last year, my second highest film of the year. I adore that movie. It just completely captured what made the first Alien so good, and taking it back to basics of kind of, the first Alien was very much this blue collar workers in space and being hunted by this monster. And obviously the overall message behind all of Alien is that corporations are the bad guy. You know, the alien, the xenomorph itself, isn't actually the villain. It's just the monster. It's all because of corporations forcing them in these situations and don't care about people. You know, that's kind of your basic premise of, if you strip it down, that's kind of what it's saying. And Alien Romulus kind of returned back to that in a brilliant film that harnessed everything we love about Alien and Aliens. And there will be a sequel to that film coming in the next few years, which is great, which will see the return of David Johnson as Andy, who's just an amazing synthetic. I think you'll agree that one of the best things about this franchise is the synthetics, the androids. They're just amazing. They're often the highlights of a lot of the films. And then, as well as that, we've got this show coming out, which is really cool. And then we won't touch on this too much, but there's also a lot of expansion around the Predator world as well. And you mentioned how Alien versus Predator isn't canon, and it's not. However, there is a new Predator film that's coming out with a trailer. Predator Badlands also is an animated film that just dropped on Disney. I haven't seen that yet, but I will soon. But the new Predator trailer has a few tie-ins to the Alien universe. So they seem to be tying that in and expanding on it, because in one of the trophy rooms that the Predator has, there is a skull of a xenomorph and the skull of one of the aliens from Independence Day.
Oh,
so it seems to be expanding this space world in this canoninity. And so you've got this expansion of their giving more attention to Predator, more attention to xenomorphs and stuff, expanding this universe. Also, I think it's Ella Fanning, who is starring in this new Predator film, will be playing a Weyland-Yutani synthetic.
Oh, what in the Predator? Oh, really?
In the Predator film.
Know that.
It's going to be about. I think it's very much just going to be your new, the new Planet of the Apes film, and how that was a rogue ape going off with a child. I think it's the same premise of a rogue predator being hunted down by other predators who's teamed up with a synthetic girl.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's quite exciting, actually. So there's probably going to be quite a lot to talk about in the coming things. Ash, I know he talked about favorite films in terms of 2D. Although I absolutely love the second Alien film, Aliens. Ash is absolutely the best synthetic that's been in any of the films as well. Really,
and possibly one of the best film twists as well.
Yeah.
No one knew imagine when the first Alien came out, no one knew synthetics were a thing. Yeah. And then the twist that, he'd actually been working against them all this time was a great reveal, which just helped expand whatever this world is even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we break down some of the trailer then? You'll have some points on some of this.
Let's do it. So, let's start off with a synopsis. This is from IMDb. When a mysterious space vessel crash lands on Earth, a young woman and a ragtag group of tactical soldiers make a fateful discovery that puts them face to face with the planet's greatest threat. So that's the synopsis for this Alien Earth show.
And this is the first time aliens will have come to Earth as well, or we've seen aliens on Earth in the kind of canon universe. So my thinking is that in terms of timeline, it goes Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien Earth, this TV series, then Aliens 2 years after.
Yeah.
Then 20 years after that is Alien Romulus. Then, I don't know, can't do my maths, but about 30 years after that is Aliens and Alien 3. And then everyone, let's just please forget about Alien Resurrection, shall we?
Well, I'd say let's forget about Alien 3 as well, to be honest.
I don't mind Alien 3. We've had this conversation before. There's some good
I don't know how
performances
you
in
forgive
there.
that. I can't forgive it. I'm sorry. Even the production of that film was a mess. No, just no, thank you. I'm gonna choose to forget.
Let's not talk about it now. Then let's talk about the Alien.
That whole mother angle of Aliens that made a core premise and heart of that film. Nah, let's just get rid of. Sorry, spoilers for Alien 3. But
I think it's okay.
It came out a while ago now.
It did.
Don't view it as canon.
So Alien, it's the first time it will have been on Earth with.
Yeah, so this is, as you said, this is set 2 years before Alien, which I guess recontextualizes Alien ever so slightly, because now Weyland-Yutani, the evil corporation, is aware of what Ripley's ship is going toward. Because they surely from this show they would have encountered xenomorphs already. Yeah,
I think so. One
of my worries for this show is that actually Alien lends itself, or in its versions, the formula of Alien lends itself better to a film. I think it's similar to a horror where throughout the course of the film more people are getting killed off and you're just hoping who can survive and how will they. So to put that formula into a show, I hope it's translated into a really succinct way that's still interesting every episode. I think the show will be amazing. The creatives behind it have made some amazing stuff, especially the writers. And I hope it's similar to Andor in that and I only say that because the dude that plays Nemric from season 1 is a major role in this show as well. And he just has a perfect look to fit into this world. But I hope it's not a case of, all right, well, this is a new episode. Which one's getting killed off this episode? Or half of the season being a lot of conversations and talking. And then the final chunk of episodes is all the action where everyone dies. I just hope it's paced very well. And translating the Alien formula into a show may be harder than it first seems.
Do we have any idea of how many episodes it'll be? Or length?
I would assume it's eight episodes. Yes.
Oh, that's good. I hate it when it gets too
Probably like
too
8-hour episodes. Yeah.
It's good.
So that's exciting.
So what on the trailer have you what is exciting you about what you've seen in the trailer so far, Jay? Or what you've seen in
Okay,
the
cool.
trailers?
So, obviously we all know what a xenomorph is. We've dealt with aliens before, and something that I think is quite fun that's going to help the show have a lot more interest watching it lengthwise is that they're not just dealing with xenomorphs in this show. They say in the trailer that the ship that crash lands has 5 of the universe's or the galaxy's grossest, like, destructive monsters that they've found. So they're actually expanding this kind of universe's lore by giving us new monsters outside of the xenomorph, which is really exciting. I think above that, this is going to be probably a very intellectual drama as well as a horror, as they tend to be. And we've already seen snippets from people's logos and jackets and the cities that we're seeing, like the Neverland inspired kind of city that it seems to crash in, that we are dealing with more than one of these companies. So not only are we dealing with Weyland-Yutani, which is always kind of in the main corporate company that we all hate throughout this franchise, but also all of its rival competitors. And I would assume that this show is going to go into how Weyland kind of overtakes them or combines with them or buys them out or whatever. And I can't help but think this ship crash lands on a rival company's city. It's not a big stretch to assume maybe Weyland-Yutani planned this to land there on a rival competitor.
Yeah.
What excites you about the trailer?
When I heard about Alien Earth and they're bringing out an Alien series, my first reaction was, "Oh God, I hope they don't go kind of almost low budget kind of. I hope it doesn't kind of almost kind of ruin the franchise." But actually, the look and feel of the aliens, the kind of sets, the kind of scenes, I think that's the thing that actually. So this looks like it's going to be really good quality. I think just the fact that we've got some xenomorphs and look, the beauty of TV, isn't it, is you have longer. The beauty of TV is you have much longer than you do with films. So we would expect more about character development, more about some of those. But it'll be interesting to see how do you have a series of xenomorphs over 8 hours of TV? Like we used to seeing kind of quite short. You're in a cinema, you watch it for 2 hours. There's a flash of a couple of xenomorphs. You probably don't see another one. You probably don't see it for the first hour because there's loads of build up and stuff like that. So I agree with you. There is something interesting about how do you convert that into a series. I imagine there will be a lot of setup around things like Weyland-Yutani and the companies, but my hope is that it doesn't take too long to get into some of those different monsters. And I mean, there's nothing better than in Alien Romulus when the face huggers are absolutely kind of chasing after people. So my hope is that there's enough action in it, and it looks from the trailer like that there's going to be some good stuff.
Exactly, and I think it's got that Disney budget behind it.
Yeah.
So there's that, which hopefully keeps the ability to have a lot of action. And as well, there's 4 other species of aliens that we assume we're going to see in this show, which they'll probably have to take down throughout the course of the show or survive against or fight each other. How cool would that be, watching a xenomorph fight some other kind of alien? And so I think that's a really smart way to keep excitement for this show, that is outside of, it's just your typical alien thing.
And I'm really interested to see. I mean, like similar to like you I've not watched Andor yet, but Andor and some of those kind of Rogue One, where this is going to do quite a bit of pre-setup that's going to hopefully provide. There's got to be some revelation in that kind of setup to Alien as well, the original. You imagine, most of that's going to be around some of the Weyland-Yutani and how some of that stuff goes about. But it's good to. It's never been really explored in that much detail. I mean, there's mentions of it in obviously Prometheus and some of those bits, but this is going to give you a real sense of what some of that stuff's like in that kind of alien world. So I think that the fact that it comes before Alien, I think is really quite interesting, isn't it?
And also
the setup of it and how it will link in with the Alien film feels like some of this really exciting.
Yeah, and also seeing what Earth is like. This franchise rarely lets us see Earth. So seeing what Earth is around the time that, well, it's probably not going to massively tie into the Alien film because we know the Nostromo, the ship that Ripley's on, and that crew will already be in space.
Yeah.
But the company itself, based on Earth, is kind of in control of all of that. So we'll see how that kind of corporate angle works into it, which is what I'm really excited for.
And it's only 100 years into the future, actually. Now you think about the way things develop, where we were back in the 1900s. It's quite interesting. So how do you go from something which you see a space film that's all set in space? You don't think about actually how far into the future is that technology being developed. This is only 100 years into the future. I think that's quite an interesting thing to explore. But as you say, you've got aliens and a load of monsters on Earth, which means a lot more people to play with, a lot more characters as well, a lot more people that can be killed. So because they're on Earth, there's an opportunity for quite a lot of gory kind of shock scenes and stuff without probably affecting a load of the major characters that will probably last until the end, no doubt. But it's just, I like it when they just play with a different format. It's quite a lot.
And last thing we'll touch on as well is one major seemingly plot point of the trailer is that our focal character is actually a young girl who's being uploaded, I guess. Her consciousness is being placed into a synthetic body, which is something we've never seen in this franchise before, which is interesting. I'd assume from the context clues that she has some illness or something, or is dying, whatever, which is why they're doing that. I just think it's strange that they're putting a young girl into a more adult synthetic body, which is quite strange. Any thoughts on that at all, or just kind of open to seeing what the show's plan with that is?
No, open to seeing how it is. I mean, we'll see where we go. I suppose I think there's some kind of rumor around the second Romulus having some kind of link to Ellen's daughter and stuff, isn't there? We've obviously it would be remiss of us not to talk about Alien Isolation, the game.
Mm-hmm.
The last summer we played quite a lot of time, absolutely petrified, particularly when we got chased by an alien, because I accidentally left it on hard mode on the PlayStation. But I'm just intrigued to see where it'll go. It looks good. We're just going to see how it goes, aren't we?
Yeah, and we think that because Fede Alvarez, since Alien Romulus came out, and we were playing Alien Isolation a lot around the time of this film, so we noticed so much like set consistency and details which matched up with the game. And he said he was directly inspired by that game, which is only a few years, I believe 5 years difference between Romulus, which to me suggests with their 5 or so year journey that they were making at the end of Romulus in hypersleep, that perfectly sets up introducing Ripley's daughter alongside our main Romulus cast for the sequel, which I would love. And I know you're not a fan of Prometheus, but I bloody love Prometheus. I don't like the sequel, Covenant. That's awful. But Prometheus, Michael Fassbender's David, bring him in, please. Oh, him and Andy. The synthetics are the heart of the Alien franchise to me. And I love them. They're so cool. They're so much fun.
It's almost worth mentioning as well. This Christmas we were playing the Alien board game. Can't you tell we got a bit of a sense of this? We were playing the Alien board game, Fate of the Nostromo, and particularly the bit where you're actually in a team. I mean, that game is really good. We played it. We only played it once at Christmas.
Can you tell this
when
is
we started getting chased by Ash, the synthetic in the game? I mean, that was some exciting board game playing.
Yeah, so
God,
we
are
keep
bad
saying we're
nerds,
going to do all good ones, depending how you look at it.
Good stuff. Do you remind me, when do we know when Alien Earth is at? When are we planning? When do we know when first episode's going to come out?
Yeah, so I'm excited for this. It is set to premiere Wednesday, the 13th of August.
Oh, that's too long to wait, but that is exciting.
Give it me now.
I know. But that's exciting. So more to come from that as well.
That's only like a month, 2 months away.
Yeah. It looks really good though. I don't want to wait. Usually with TV series, we don't have to wait that long. But more, that is exciting though. looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and I think it's a show that you need the trailer out quite early to stir excitement. I feel like it's not a show where people are gonna, just jump on it straight away. I feel like the Alien as a franchise needs to get people aware of it for the trailers. They're not Marvel bringing out an Ironheart trailer like less than a month before the show comes out, which is just unfortunate. It feels like Disney are just kind of trying to get rid of that show at this point. It has been in development for like 4 years.
We've probably both watched the trailer on that as well. I mean, that is not an exciting show that I don't think anyone will watch, but okay.
Yeah, I feel sorry for it. I don't know. It's just been in development for so long, and I think it's kind of just getting thrown out now. Oh well. Anyway,
should we talk about Last of Us? We both watched the series of Last of Us.
Yeah, going from talking about one kind of thing connected to a game series to another. Look at us. Synergy. That's what you come to Dad Made a Nerd for.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We absolutely planned it.
Yeah.
No, but Last of Us came. So the final series of final episode of the second series of Last of Us came out probably about 2-3 weeks ago. We've both watched the series. I loved the first series. I thought it was really good. I love the game as well, to be honest. The game is brilliant. I haven't completed the game, but I've played bits of both of the games, which is really good. Second series came out. What do we think? Should we do a bit of a what do we think of the series overall? What did you think, Joe?
Season 2?
Season 2. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's a bit of a step down from season 1. I found that, and if you follow my review account at Jay's Reviews on Instagram, you can kind of get, or Letterboxd, you can kind of get a gauge of my feelings about The Last of Us. I had a lot to say. The game is a masterpiece, especially The Last of Us 2 game. Neil Druckmann purposely puts you in a place of consciously disliking the person you're in control of. And that's always his aim for it, but then to try and turn you around on it. And the show didn't do enough, in my opinion, to help Abby's side of things. And I think that's a mixture of reasons. I think, so are we getting into spoilers for Last of Us 2? Do you reckon?
I think it's difficult for us not to. Let's just be from this point. There's going to be some spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler talk. If you don't want to know what's going to happen, you ain't caught up yet, just jump out. Okay. So Joel dies very early on. Major thing happens in the game. It was kind of unavoidable that they'd have to kill off Pedro Pascal so early in episode 2. Brilliant episode. However, my issue with that, which I think is the crux of the issue of this season, is Joel's death. Is that not only is Pedro Pascal too likable in the role of Joel, that it makes it so sad when he dies, but also his death is portrayed in such a sad and pathetic light. In the game, Joel is fighting, swearing back, and you understand Abby's perspective more, that Joel almost respects that if this was the other way around, he would just kill her as well. And so when Joel dies, yes, it's shocking and it's heartbreaking, but you don't really hate Abby too much for it. Some people did, obviously. It was a controversial game. But you understand her point of view, which is more important. The depiction in the show is Joel is crying on the floor. He's more pathetic and he's more likable as Pedro, because he's Pedro Pascal. Who's not going to like him? So you feel more sorry for him. And as well as that, Caitlin Dever's performance as Abby is more sadistic than the game. You understand her more. She's more thought through. And then they gave her that monologue, which she yells at Joel before she kills him. And Joel cuts her off in the game, and she doesn't get that monologue. And thank God, because that monologue to me just made her such an over cartoonish evil villain, which I think makes it so much harder for the show to then redeem her later on, as they're going to try to do.
They didn't do any character build up on Abby, though, did they? Am I right? And you told me you play as her in the game, don't you? Is that right?
Yeah. So I don't want to spoil, because you don't really know what's coming, but I think the ending of season 2 kind of suggests it quite obviously. Is that season 1 obviously focuses on Joel. Season 2 is mostly from Ellie's perspective, and at that point in the game, so if, as you see it at the end of season 2, it goes to day 1, so it jumps like 3 days earlier to Abby's perspective. The next season, I would assume, is going to be entirely from Abby's perspective, because that's the point in the game where you start playing as her.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So
and you see what she's been getting up to while Ellie's been doing her thing that we've just seen.
In the game, is Bella as annoying as she is in series 2?
Did you find Bella Ramsey's Ellie annoying?
I did find her a bit annoying, yeah. I just like I just thought she was moany.
Yeah, I found that unfortunately they decided to spread a lot of her scenes from the game, giving her motivation of revenge. Like season 2 is about revenge. That's the whole main plot, is like it's a story about revenge because Ellie's hellbent on it, and the kind of repeating the sins of the father, because Joel killed Abby's dad, Abby kills Joel, Ellie's gonna try and kill Abby. That's the plot. And it's trying to, how do you end that cycle of revenge? And a lot of the scenes that explain Ellie's motivation is actually given to Isabella Merced's Dina, who does an amazing job in this season. Dina's incredible. Isabella Merced really stood out. Another issue I have with season 2 is that season 1 had a load of little side episodes and plots. You know, Frank and Bill, those two brothers. You get a load of these lovely episodes, these bottle episodes, which make you cry and learn about these lovely tragic characters. Season 2 didn't really have that. And as well, as season 1 expanded on the lore and the nuance of the story of these characters from the game, season 2 actually gave less depth and didn't give us as much time with characters. For example, is it Jesse who's Dina's kind of partner?
All right, yeah.
We see him get shot in the last episode, really sadly. Yeah. I was really annoyed by that because it was super awesome, like how quick it was, and it was really jarring and shocking. But we spent like barely any time with Jesse. In the game, when Jesse dies, that is truly heartbreaking because we really care about him. We've spent a ton of time with him. But weirdly, in season 2, he was stripped down way more.
Yeah, I there was action series, right? So episode 2, I think it is, where all of the kind of zombies start kind of attacking. That is such a good episode.
That's just a cool example of them expanding, because we never see that in the game because it's all played from Joel and Ellie's perspective. That attack on, I forgot the name of it, not Jonestown. That's Jacksonville.
Yeah. Jackson Hole.
That was brilliant. That just full frontal attack and stuff, and how that kind of domino effect happened.
Do you know the only thing that really annoyed me about it though, and this is very minor, they used fire to throw things at them, but their walls were made out of wood.
Right. So
why did they not just burn down?
However, I love Neil Druckmann. So there's a podcast as well that Neil Druckmann has talking about every episode after they came out and stuff. And something I really appreciated was a lot of the attention to detail. So, for example, in films, traditionally, you see someone shoot a barrel and it explodes or it sets on fire straight away. I love that they were so realistic with it. Like, so they set out these barrels first. Like, it was such a brilliantly structured sequence that homages and is so similar to the amazing battle in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, which I think is one of the best castle assaults, fortress assault action sequences in all of cinema. It's just in Helm's Deep. It's just amazingly structured, incredibly well done. And this film, or this episode, clearly takes a lot of inspiration from that. So they have the barrels, which you wonder about what they're doing, and then they shot them so the oil was spilling across all of the waves first, and then they lit it later on when they were in a big herd, because that meant it created lines of fire which slowed down the infected, because they would have to run through this fire and become engulf each other in flames. But yes, also their things are made of wood, but that didn't seem to make too much of a difference anyway.
In films, wood doesn't burn. Okay, I can take that. That's fine.
Also, can we also acknowledge snowy area?
Yeah,
it'll probably be relatively wet. You can't really light wet wood very easily.
Okay. Yeah,
There you
okay,
go.
we'll take that.
Take it from us, two people who only absorb media,
solved it with science,
fantasy, and pretend.
I would say, coming on to, I did quite like the end of the fact, got quite a bit of satisfaction from the fact that kind of closed off Joel's story really well, in the fact that Joel kind of did have that conversation with Bella at the end and stuff like that. And I do think, in a way, that was quite a satisfying kind of ending to the series, I think.
Yeah, so that episode, which jumps every year after the end of season 1 through Ellie's birthday, to see how they kind of have that stale distance at the start of season 2. Lovely episode. It's way later in the game that we see those scenes. So I don't think, unless they make new scenes for Pedro Pascal that aren't
I
in
think
the
that
game,
was his goodbye, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's not going to be in season 3 unless they, and it might be smart because the shows didn't seem to be doing as well as season 1. They may write in some more scenes to see Joel, maybe before season 1 or something. I don't know, of dealing with the outbreak. But I think you're right. His story's kind of complete.
I did like the fact that they closed off the arc in quite a satisfying way. I think Pedro Pascal deserved that. I did like that.
Yeah, and obviously, so actually, this is some game knowledge. So in it's way throughout the game where we see all these flashbacks. One of the most heartfelt things toward the end of the game is on Ellie's birthday, where they homage her love of space, and they do that kind of go to the museum and stuff. And that's a lovely part of the game. And then the final scene of the game, after the entire story's done, is that scene on the porch where Joel confesses, and you actually find out, Ellie knew all along. Yeah. And she got that closure. And that's why it's so sad the next day when Ellie comes out and she's like, I wanted to go on patrol with Joel. You understand why now? Because they actually had that closure. And it's tragic, but it's lovely that obviously Joel, that was the last conversation they had.
Yeah, I do. That's what I mean. I do think there's a.
All he needed to know was that all he needed to know is that she was willing to try, and that's really heartbreaking. That's lovely. So like the show really is good at capturing those elements. I just think it's nowhere near as strong as season 1. I think largely that's because Neil Druckmann has promised a few more seasons. He's going to expand the rest of the game over 2 more seasons, which I think is a big mistake. I still would have done the entire second game in 1 season because I just think this is quite
short. It's quite a short series, though, wasn't it? Well, we talked. Was it 7 episodes? Was it?
Yeah, 7 episodes. And
so I think in a way it was kind of short. It was almost kind of half a season in a way, wasn't it? But but. It's there was enough in there to be excited to watch the next season. If I'm honest, I do think the some of the shots and some of the cinematography is so good, it's good,
a gorgeous show. And also like the addition of the therapist. What's her name? I thought that character was brilliant. Which isn't from the game, and expanding on that. And Eugene, it was a shame we didn't get a full episode about Eugene. We really thought we were going into it. Obviously that's Cypher from from the Matrix. But Catherine O'Hara plays Gail, who's the therapist. She was great in the show. Like all of those little additions, really cool. We just didn't have enough time to do all of it. And I think it's largely because Neil Druckmann is saving a lot of it, saying, we've got multiple seasons to kind of span this out. So they were too relaxed with this season. And so it just kind of lost a bit of its edge. As well as that, I don't know. I just think they're doing too many seasons for this. But you're not aware of the Last of Us 2 game, are you?
No, I've not. No, I've not completed the game. No, so I'm not fully aware.
Where do you think it's going to go, or where do you want it to go?
Well, I mean, she obviously focused on at least trying to get that revenge and got it with one of those people. Actually, a couple of them, wasn't it, in the last episode? But you just get a sense that it's for the hunt for Abby. So I am surprised that you're saying actually you think the second series is very much going to be from Abby's perspective. I just don't think we saw enough of her at all. I quite liked.
I think that's intentional.
Some of the opening it up with what's he called? The guy who played Gordon in the Batman.
You're on about Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah, Jeffrey Wright.
He's brilliant. He actually played the same character in the Last of Us 2 game.
Oh, really? Oh, I did not know. I mean, that guy's got such a good voice, hasn't he?
So Jeffrey Wright, and he plays Isaac. who is the leader of the Wolves or the WLFs, and he's going to play a much bigger part in season 2 because obviously
that's why I quite liked the
Abby.
tease of that, because I like him, and I think that
it seems like that as well.
That's a good area of expansion, actually.
We see kind of an origin point, like at the start of the episode, where he's on that where he leaves and throws a bomb into the
inside the armored truck.
Yeah, exactly. Like we never see that in the game because it's all from the character's perspective. So it's those additions are great, where we just, because we don't see much of Isaac in the game, especially from Ellie's perspective, because you kind of come across these guys and it's kind of shoot on sight or get shot. So just those little scenes expanding this gang war going on in this city is really cool to me, and we're going to see a lot more of that in the game. At this point, I think what's going to happen is season 3 is going to be entirely from Abby's perspective, who again I think is miscast. Abby's this big, like very muscular, has a different kind of body shape, and that lends a lot to her character. And I think they purposely chose Caitlin Dever because she looks similar to Bella Ramsey, so it has that visual, like this is what you will become kind of element. I just don't think that's enough to justify the change of her visual appearance. I just don't think it says as much as if they did it the way the game does. And so I think season 3 is going to be entirely up to her from her perspective, and that season 3 will end, or maybe just before, will end with the moment we see at the end of season 2 where she's got the gun and she bumps into Ellie. And then season 4 is going to be carrying on from that point, jumping between the both of them, and we'll see. I quite like
the introduction of the scars and stuff like that, though. I quite like that. You can imagine quite a bit of it. You were imagining. I can see how this would have played out in a computer game, which I do quite like that. One gripe I really have with the series, which really winds me up. They'd be walking down the middle of a street saying, "Oh my God, there's loads of people." Why do you walk down the middle of the street? Like, I'm not saying like you have to like creep around every corner, but don't walk right down the center of a street where it's lit up. At least walk down the edge.
Yeah, see,
that doesn't make sense.
I get that. However, if you're in an infected area, you want distance between you and the things that can only kill you when they're like in proximity of you. At least if you have a gun, you have distance.
But they're going towards where they know there's loads of soldiers. They'll be able to see him.
That's true. You're right. You know why?
I don't know.
You know why? Because it looks hella pretty. It looks pretty when they're in the middle. They go, let's show the shot of the street and them walking to the edge, and then we're all gonna go, where are they? I can't see them. Nah, put them right.
That's what they should.
It looks pretty.
If there's a zombie apocalypse, Jay, we're walking near the edge of the buildings.
All right, I'll let you.
Not in the center of the road. Like, hey, look at me, shoot me, everybody. And then they talk dead loud. I might just whisper.
Yeah,
and then you can hear it on the microphone. So
then it's like, oh my
God,
not
great TV if like you can't hear them.
It's like we spend the whole show with our ear toward the screen. It's like,
I
can't see them and I can't hear them. What good entertainment!
But anyway, so how long have we got to wait till series 3? I'm guessing it's going to be beginning of next year.
Next year after. It took 2 years to get to this season. I'd say roughly the same, bit shorter. I think they're probably filming them at similar time to each other. Also, no Pedro Pascal, and I think that's okay. Pedro Pascal's, I think, getting overexposed at this point. He's Mr. Fantastic in Fantastic Four. He's the Mandalorian in Star Wars. Like, I think,
I did like Isabella Merced though. I thought
amazing.
As a father figure, you thought you could have done more with kind of Joel's brother a bit more, because
weirdly, a lot of his scenes from the game they gave to Isabella Merced's Dina instead. Some of the dialogue and stuff was
hopefully not that really awkward, weird sex scene. That one.
Not that one. No. Just like
that was weird.
For example, when Joel dies, it's Joel's brother who's there instead of Dina.
Okay.
So he has to watch Joel die as well, or he gets knocked out before he dies. But they decided to really focus on Dina being like another kind of daughter figure to Joel. And also the flashback episode, I think that's got a lot of controversy around if it's good or not. The opening with his dad, Joel's dad, like, and the whole, I'm just I'm just trying to be a little bit better than my dad was. And how that came full circle for the end. Oh, that broke my heart. Pedro Pascal, give him an Emmy for that final monologue of that episode.
Yeah.
Where he was confessing to Ellie what happened. That was amazing.
This is the problem, isn't it? There's an argument.
That's the issue.
We
Joel
love Pedro Pascal.
Be that lovable.
But yeah, he's not supposed to be, but sounds good. Okay, so we're excited for that one as well, aren't we?
Yes, that's my thoughts on Last of Us 2. If you were to give it a rating out of should we say 10 or 5?
The Last of Us season 2. Should we go 5 to be consistent with? So are we allowed halves?
Yeah.
3.5, I'd say. 3.5. I think the first series, I think for me was probably a 5 because it was just so good.
Yeah,
I think this one was a bit of a drop off, but it's only a drop off because of the standards it set for the first one. I think genuinely it was really good. So it's a high 3.5.
Okay, cool. I'm very similar. I gave it a 4 out of 5, which is you gave it like a 7 out of 10. I gave it like an 8 out of 10. I think it's still really good. I'm still absolutely in love with the show. I do think it's dropped off significantly, but from a comparing it to other shows, it's still incredibly gripping. It's written so intellectually. The performances are still all there. Like, it's a brilliant show. If I compare it to the game, it's not as good, but it's still a good show.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, we're going to be back with another episode, and we're going to make sure that it's not
try and be back on it
between the last one. So, anything else you want to say before we finish, Jay?
No, I think that's all. I think probably next week we may go into the Fantastic Four versus Superman. We're getting up to that now. Superman and Fantastic Four are just on the horizon. They're coming out a week apart. It's going to be intense. There's a lot of discussion over which one's going to do better than the other. Do you have any bets of which one's going to perform better before we end?
Let's hold it and let's talk about it next time.
Okay, cool.
But it's a good question. Maybe that's a question we could put on the for what people think as well.
Yeah, we'll do polls and stuff.
But good stuff. I'm just glad that we're back doing it. We've missed each other anyway.
Yeah, it's been nice. It's lovely to be back.
Sounds good. So thanks for joining us for this episode. If you want to like us, rate us, follow us on all the things that you can on Spotify, and we'll be back again next week.
Cool
stuff.
Bye-bye.